Everybody, thank you so much for joining me here on the iTeach TV network. My name's Amy and I'm a special ed teacher in Asheville, North Carolina, and I love coming to you on the iTeach TV network to share strategies to help all the learners in your classroom have the best year ever and to feel confident and empowered. And if you follow me at all on any other social media or even here on iTeach TV network, you know that I love reading and learning and doing research about how to best help my students. And I really love sharing that with you guys because I think that if you know something that's helping, then you need to share it with every teacher that you know so that they can help their students. So one of the things that I love to do is to read these books, and some of them are just personal development books, not necessarily related to teaching, and then I love to figure out a way to twist that and to modify it so that my kids can understand it and so that it can help them. And I have found a lot of great things through this in my teaching this year. So if you know any teachers or any book lovers that need a little summer reading list, then feel free to share this out. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I have so many ideas of books I think you should read, but I have narrowed it down to 5 for the purposes of this Periscope because we also want to have fun in the summer and do some non-school related things. So the first book, and I imagine that a lot of you have read some of these books, but maybe the way that I share them, they're all worth 2 or 3 reads, and maybe you'll figure out a different way to look at the book to help you in a different way in your classroom for the next year. And honestly, if you still have a few days of school left, I think we have 10 days left, I kind of love trying new things right at the end of the year just so it's not brand new. It's kind of like a good time to test run things with your kiddos. So the first book that I'm going to talk about is Move Your Bus by Ron Clark. And I know that we all love Ron Clark, and he is a great leader and a great teacher, and he's very innovative. So Move Your Bus is written kind of from the perspective as a leader leading a school. And he talks about how to be a runner in your school. And I think that is fabulous, and I think that we all, as teachers who love learning, need to be leading in our schools so that we can share the great things that we know with others. But my friend Jess, the whimsical teacher, started using it for her classroom, and I have found so much power in doing that in my classroom. So in Move Your Bus, he talks about how you're the driver of a bus, and there are runners, walkers, riders, people who help move the bus forward, and people who just sit and take a ride, or people who kind of walk along and don't really help the bus move forward. So Jess found this, and I found it as well. And my co-teacher agrees wholeheartedly. When we teach the kids what it is to be a runner and how to run together with the other students in the classroom, so many of my kids who are disengaged, who are easily frustrated, who seemed like they didn't care about their learning, have risen to the occasion and become runners. What we do is we run with the runners. We don't give that attention, and as a special education teacher, this is really tricky for me. I'm used to helping the kids who are down and need help and feel sad and all that. And it's not that I don't help my kids who are struggling, because you can be struggling and be a runner. Oh, that's awesome that you're a special ed teacher. It's not the kids who are struggling or who don't know the answers who are riding and walking. It's the kids who are not trying. Yes, I am a teacher. It's the kids who are not giving their personal best and their best effort. So we have found a lot of value in teaching our kids to be runners and in running with the runners. It takes so much stress off of us to try to deal with every kid who is checked out or who isn't doing their own personal best to run with the runners. So I encourage you to read that book and think of it as how you run your classroom. He gives a lot of great advice on how to talk to runners, how to motivate runners, how to encourage runners, and how to work with the other members of the bus community too. So I definitely encourage you to read Move Your Bus. I'm sorry, I missed that question, Lily. The second book that I recommend you read is Mindset by Carol Dweck. We have all heard about growth mindsets and fixed mindsets, I think, by this point. But basically, a growth mindset is believing that you can learn from your mistakes and change and get better. And a fixed mindset is more that you think, I'm not good at math, I'm not reading. Absolutely, Kathy. Mindset by Carol Dweck. I do have a blog post up that I'll show you at the end of this with all of these books linked with the titles and all that. So a lot of us have heard of growth mindset and have started using it now. I really suggest you read this book because I think that you will learn more about why it works, how to implement it correctly, because it's all about language and it's really simple differences in things that we say, such as telling kids they're smart can actually be damaging in terms of mindset, which we think, you know, we're doing this great thing by telling kids how smart they are. But when they think of themselves as smart is kind of like a trait that is fixed. So I definitely recommend that you read Mindset by Carol Dweck. It's an awesome read, and it will help you. All of these books will help you in your personal life. If you have a teacher business, if you have some other kind of business, they'll help you as a parent, they'll help you in your classroom. The third recommendation that I have, I'm going to try to go in the order of my blog post, is The Art of Possibility by Benjamin Zander and Rosamund Stone Zander. This it's very related to the book Mindset. I don't know that they work together, but Benjamin Zander is a conductor of a symphony, and Rosamund Stone Zander is a psychologist. My blog is at amywharris.com. So this post, I just put it up, and I'll show you the link at the end. The Art of Possibility. This is an amazing book. It's a great book to listen to on Audible because the reader has a really nice British accent, and it just kind of brings a richness to listening to this book. But they have, I believe there are 6 practices that they have taught people that they worked with in her psychology practice and students that he's had in his symphony, and it really helps their students really live in possibility and in growth and in thinking about what could happen instead of being fixed. One of the practices that he has the kids do, or they're probably young adults, is give themselves an A. So at the beginning of his course, he said, you're all going to get an A, but you have to write a letter to me from a year in the future to tell me how you earned your A. So it's a really neat thing. I meant to do that with my students this year, and we never did quite get around to it. But I just love that, of telling your kids, as long as you write this letter, you earn an A, but tell me how you're going to earn that A, what you're going to be doing in the future to earn that A. I really think, I'm not a big fan of grades, so I love the idea of the kids setting that expectation and then telling us, like backward chaining, how they're going to live up to it. And one of the practices from the book that I do use all the time is something that Benjamin Zander did with his symphony students, and it was to teach them how to learn from mistakes and how to celebrate mistakes. So every time they made a mistake when they were playing, he taught them to throw their hands up in the air and say, how fascinating. And so my 2nd and 3rd graders do this in class, and it is, first of all, the cutest thing ever. It makes them so excited when they make mistakes instead of in that funnel downward spiral of being frustrated, upset, giving up. It's really cute, and it's really helped. Hello, how are you doing, Kayla? I saw Nikki come in. I'm so glad you guys are joining me. I got a little bit of a late start, so I'm trying to not go over my time. But The Art of Possibility, I highly recommend that you read it and or listen to it on Audible. It's a great read, and again, it will help you in all facets of your life, not just teaching. But teaching kids to celebrate mistakes is such an important thing, because kids these days seem so hung up on getting everything right or just giving up, and that's not how we learn. The way we learn is by making mistakes, which you'll learn when you read Mindset. My next suggestion is Fish in a Tree, and I hope if you're a teacher, hello Amy, I hope that you will read, I hope you've already read Fish in a Tree. Hi, Christina. It is an amazing book. And I think as teachers, we all teach students with reading disabilities. That's pretty much par for the course. About 20% of kids have some kind of learning disability. And a lot of times, I think those of us who go into teaching are people who kind of always felt comfortable at school, and maybe that's not true. But I was always a pretty natural reader. I really enjoyed school. I was pretty good at it, which is why I thought teaching would be so fun, because I loved being at school. And now I teach kids mostly with reading disabilities and disabilities in math or attention issues. And it was really hard for me to relate to kids with reading problems. Not that I didn't love them and love teaching them and like sympathize with their struggles, but I couldn't put myself in their shoes of really understanding what it must be like to really not be able to read. And I always tried to figure out ways to understand it, and I really related with my kids on how running was hard for me, and PE was always a struggle for me. And I always told them, if I had to come to school and do pull-ups every day or run laps all the time, I would get really frustrated too. So I understand that it must be frustrating. But Fish in a Tree really puts you in the position of that kid who gets headaches when they try to read, who does all kinds of unexpected behaviors to get out of having to read and fail and having to write because it's so hard. And it's a great story for kids. It's a great read aloud. It's great for teachers to help understand those struggling learners. And it is great because the teacher in the story is such a hero. So let me show you this book. I have it right here. And I just dropped something. It's a great book. I read this on vacation in October, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I have read it, some of it to my kids. I don't have my kids all day because I teach resource, so I pull my kids out, and I don't have as much time with them to do full read-alouds. But I've read segments of it to them, and they love it. They really, it's a fantastic book. And my last suggestion is actually not a book. It's a talk, so you can buy the audio CD or you can get it on Audible. It's The Power of Vulnerability by Brené Brown. If you follow me at all, you've probably heard me talk about Brené Brown. I completely love and admire her. I know you do, Bree, I kind of have a goal to work with her in some capacity one day. I really feel like her message is super extra important for teachers, because a lot of what she talks about, she's a shame researcher. She's a social psychologist, and she's researched shame and vulnerability and how people live wholehearted lives. So again, this will help you in every area of your life. But she really talks about the power of our words and how when we speak to children, some kids feel things in a framework of shame, and some people feel things in a framework of guilt. And so if you tell a kid that they made a bad choice and they need to, I don't know, if they were talking in class and they made a bad choice, some kids will feel that as, I'm a bad person, why did I do that? And just go into this shame spiral, which doesn't improve their behavior. It really damages their self-concept. And other kids will hear it as, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I need to change that behavior. So guilt is actually productive, whereas shame is the opposite of productive. So we don't have that much control over whether people feel things as shame or guilt innately, but the way that we say things can really change the way people receive them. So I promise you will not regret it if you listen to The Power of Vulnerability by Brené Brown. She's hilarious. I really suggest if you get any of her things, you try to get it with her reading it if you get an audiobook, because she's really funny and she really practices what she preaches. She's very vulnerable in the stories that she tells, and I have learned so much as a teacher from her. The Power of Vulnerability. So I also really suggest that you get an Audible subscription. You can get a 30-day trial, and in the 30-day trial, I believe you get 2 free books, and then after 30 days it's $14.95 a month, but you can purchase a book with that you can purchase a book. You get a credit for a book every month that you're a member. But